Hi, boys and girls and parents. I am here with our next story, and it's called Animal Habitats. So, right away, I can tell these are photographs, so I'm sure you know too that today's story is an informational text. We're going to keep reading stories that have new information about animals, and today's animals story is going to talk about their habitats. We talked about the word habitat a little bit before you left, and the word habitat, remember, means it's the place where the animals live. And so we talked about some habitats might be the wetland or the desert or fields and things like that where animals are living. So today, while we read the story Animal Habitats, we're going to be doing a few jobs. Remember, good readers always have some jobs while they're reading to make sure they understand what they're reading. As always, we're going to make connections. You guys are so good at making connections. We're going to make a lot of connections today. We're going to ask questions. And to answer those questions, we're going to do something called infer. And that means we're going to use clues or the words in the story to help us understand things that might be new to us. So those are our jobs for today. And so as I read animal habitats, you're going to hear me stop and think about some of those things and use those strategies to help me understand the story. Okay, here goes. Animal Habitats by Augustine Carpenter. Remember, if it's by someone, they are the author. Animals need a place to live. They need safe homes. They need a place where they can raise their families. The place where an animal lives is called its habitat. Right away, I make a connection because remember when we read all of those stories about different types of homes? Humans or grown-ups and adults and children are all people who also needed places to live. So we can kind of make a connection there that humans have places to live and so do animals, and theirs is called their habitat. Look at this furry squirrel. He lives in a nest in the tree. Squirrels like to live where they can find lots of food. What kind of food do they like? There's where the author's asking a question again. Well, they like acorns and seeds. They bury nuts in the ground. Why? So they will have plenty of food in the cold winter months. Something else is in the tree. Do you see the woodpecker? It is peeking out of a hole. Who made the hole in the tree? The woodpecker did. He tap, tap, tapped with his beak. Now the tree has a hole. Okay, so it's telling me now the tree has a hole. The woodpecker must have made the hole with the tap, tap, tapping sound. The woodpecker now has a place for a nest. Some animals live underground. This toad burrowed. That means it dug a hole for a home. When it rains, the toad will come out. Have you ever seen a muddy toad before? This toad looks very muddy. Can you guess why? So kind of they're asking us to infer or use clues. Why do we think the toad was muddy? Well, because when it rains, the toad comes out of its hole that's dug in the ground, which is made of dirt. That makes sense. We had to go back to the story and find those details. Other animals burrow too. Some animals dig dens for their homes. These foxes live in a den. So does this woodchuck. Who else lives underground? Moles do. And even families of prairie dogs live underground. I can make a lot of connections here. I've had moles live in my yard. And um, although I've never seen a prairie dog, it looks a lot like a little groundhog. So they kind of look the same. I wonder if they're related. Is burrowing good for the ground? Worms burrow everywhere. They create tunnels that go on and on. The soil moves with the worms. It gets more water and air. It also gets more fertilizer, which is very, very good. Rabbits are little animals that live in burrows. Several rabbit families may share one burrow. They eat and sleep there. When they come out of their burrows, they like to eat. They eat flowers and they eat vegetables. That is good for the rabbit, but not for humans. Humans. Remember the green bean story when Leah and her grandpa planted the green bean plants and the rabbits were in that story eating their green bean plants. And that makes sense because they just gave us the information that rabbits like to eat vegetables. So we kind of can make a connection there to the information we've learned about the animal. Some animals live in the water. Other animals live near the water. Beavers live near streams and lakes. They are good swimmers. Trees can always be found near the beaver's home. You might see teeth marks in the trees. They belong to a beaver. He uses wood to make a lodge. See that beaver there using wood. Sometimes beaver dams make the land flood, which can cause problems. The ground can get too soft and farmers may lose their crops. On the other hand, beaver dams help other animals. Deer look for plants where the beavers have cut down trees, and ducks make nests on top of dams, and so do geese. You kind of can see the dam there in this picture where they built one with all of their wood they collected. Some animals carry their homes with them. A snail has a shell on its back. It stays in its shell when the weather is dry. On a rainy day, a snail comes out to search for food. What do snails eat? They eat what they find in their habitat. Fruits and vegetables. They like to eat from gardens. And if I were to use clues from the story here, I can tell that they're outside. There's some of this like green moss or algae on the picture here that's telling us, oh, and I'm guessing it must have been a rainy day because in the story it says that snails come out to search for food on a rainy day. So I can use details again in the story to help me learn and make some more connections. What about bees? Where do they live? Bees live in a nest called a hive. The hive can be in a tree. Bees make honey. Bees spread pollen from plant to plant. Many plants need bees to survive. We need plants. Hooray for bees! And I can make a connection about this as well because I've seen movies or different information that talk about how important bees are. And we talked in our last unit about what plants need to grow, and we talked a little bit about how plants or how bees transfer the pollen. So that's a connection there too. Where do you live? Do you live in the city? Do you live in the country? Have you changed your habitat in a good way? You can pick up your trash, help water the flowers, wave hello to your neighbor. Your home is a habitat for you. So that story, boys and girls, again, just talked a little bit more about animal habitats. So maybe if you've chosen to write about an animal, and I know some of your workbook pages ask you to write about an animal, you will talk about their habitat or where they live. If you chose a tiger, where is it that they live? Where might they find their food in their habitat? If you've chosen a rabbit, you might come back to this video about this story and talk about a little bit where rabbits are living. So talk a little about where they live and how they get their food from there. I hope you liked the story. Talk to you soon.